What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. We are here with a special request. We got non-Americans. What's the weirdest thing an American has said to you? This is a new channel, so I mean, it might have the little robot sound, but these are always interesting topics. So appreciate you guys for the recommendation. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Send me more recommendations. And let's see some weirdest thing American has said to you.
Non-Americans. What's the weirdest thing an
Has a
American
regular
has said
voice.
to you? I live in the Southern Hemisphere. Talking to an American online in December, and I mentioned it was summer for me. She kept asking which month I was in, kept insisting it must be June, and couldn't seem to wrap her head around the idea that it was simultaneously December and summer in the Southern Hemisphere.
Oh,
When I was 6, I thought
wow.
this too. I was asked if France is part of the United Kingdom. When I tried explaining to him what the United Kingdom is, he told me England is no longer part of the UK because of Brexit. It is really surprising how many people get the UN, the UK, and the EU mixed up.
Hey, go. Like, every time I say United Kingdom, Britain, y'all do get on to me because y'all say that is not the same thing. It's I even did a video where I kind of looked and see the differences. It still take me time to process all this stuff because in my mind I always thought the UK was everything was the UK. That's what I thought.
Just because the UK left, the EU doesn't mean they suddenly have teleported outside of Europe.
That's another one.
real
Y'all
good-
say the UK is not Europe, but other people be like, well, it's still in Europe, technically.
EU doesn't mean they suddenly have teleported outside of Europe. You speak real good English for a foreigner. I'm British, and she knew that. Because a lot of people seem to think that no American could ever say this and mean it, it was a lovely, sweet, older woman who thought she was paying me a genuine compliment. We sat and chatted in her garden for about an hour as she plied me with her homemade lemonade and asked me about my life and what brought me to Washington State. I thanked her because she was saying something lovely, albeit weird, and we continued chatting. You don't speak English real good. You speak it really well. How long did it take you to use metric instead of normal measurements? He genuinely didn't understand that metric was a system we actually used every day. We weren't constantly having to mentally convert measurements to feet or pounds to understand how big they really were. And people that say stuff
What in
like
the
that,
world?
have a brain. Had a black American assume that I was African American also, because I'm black. I had to explain to him that the ethnically specified title African American is only used to describe black people from America, not black people from other countries,
facts.
and that black people from other countries are not specifically labeled by heritage, race, or ethnicity. Afterward, I revealed to him that I'm actually Bahamian. Despite all that explaining, he still proceeded to ask, "Oh, so you're African Bahamian then?" I felt the vein on the side of my head
Oh
twinge
my
a little.
gosh.
Lol. I was on a student exchange between my German school and a school in San Francisco in the late 90s. When the Americans came to visit us, we had a welcome party for them at a friend's place. That friend had a dog, and at some point he gave the dog a command in German. The dog obeyed, and one of the American kids asked how we managed to teach German to the dog. He wasn't joking either. He seemed convinced that all pets are somehow born with the knowledge of the
Oh
English
my
language,
God.
but all other languages need to be taught to them. I know a guy who's convinced that German shepherds learn German commands easier than English.
Oh
I
my
once had
god,
an
that's a wild statement right there. Simply because like people don't realize dogs, depending on what language you speak to them, they're gonna understand. Like I mentioned, my wife's family, they're Hispanic. You think their dogs are not gonna listen to them when they speak Spanish? Like they probably understand Spanish more than my English.
American tell me I need to try the real Gouda cheese they have in the US because everything else is fake Gouda. I'm Dutch, and I actually lived near Gouda.
Wow.
Ah, you're from Denmark? Where in Canada is that again?
When I visited a friend in the US, they told me about this amazing furniture shop they had there called IKEA. I'm Swedish.
Oh my god.
As a Brit, I had to bite my tongue when asked.
Do you celebrate Independence Day?
They asked if I spoke African. You should have asked if they spoke American.
You speak American very well for a foreigner.
Thanks, lady. I'm Canadian, and American is the only language I know.
I can't believe you would live in a country where you're living under the dictatorship of the Queen.
I am Canadian. A middle-aged American was surprised to find out Venice was so old and an actual city for centuries and not built in the 20th century for tourist purposes. They must have been thinking of Las Vegas.
I love the African American culture here.
Said in Cape Town,
my
South
God.
Africa. I'm an Englishman,
Oh my
living in the US
gosh.
for 15 years now. I've been asked a lot of bizarre things, but one of the best was someone who asked what language we spoke in England, and how long it took me to learn
What
English
in
when I
the
moved
world?
here. Well, how long did it take?
I didn't know it was this cold in Cuba.
We are in Spain. Spain, Europe. Stupid fricker came
Oh
to
my
university here on a scholarship for 6 months, and didn't even know which country it was coming into.
How?
Nor thought it
What
was
the-
strange how long the flight was.
That's weird. Like, how are you going to a school and didn't even know what country it was in? That don't make no sense. Like, are you lost?
He also didn't think about Googling the place to see where it was. The weather, don't know. Information about the place he was going to live for 6 months? Only packed flip-flops, t-shirts, and shorts. We're in the north of Spain, and we have UK weather. He had to spend quite a bit on winter clothes in October because he had nothing to wear. He was also bummed because he couldn't find tacos here. You can. This
Oh
reminds
my
me of that one
gosh.
tweet where somebody said nobody white had any right speaking Spanish, and the reply was, "Are you familiar with the entire country of Spain?" I honestly struggle to think of what the American stereotype of Spain actually is.
Oh my
A
god.
friend was dating an American, and a bunch of us went out for a pub meal, UK. Now, there's a stereotype that Americans can be a little loud, and unfortunately, this was the case with this girl. Literally, everyone in the pub was giving her the side eye, but no one said anything because that would be rude. My friend very subtly tries to make her aware of the noise level, and she talk yells,
Oh no, honey, I'm not loud. All y'all just too quiet. Such a quaint little country. Y'all need to use your outdoor voices.
Very American of her to say that. I'm not loud. Y'all just too quiet. That is very, very American.
Just too quiet. Such a quaint little country. Y'all need to use your outdoor voices.
We were quite clearly inside. I can genuinely imagine the pub and multiple tables who are mounting to each other in absolute disbelief. The ones shaking their head, as well as the ones obviously trying to ignore it. My wife was staying at a hostel in Athens a few years ago. She shared a room with an American in her 20s. They got to talking about where they've stayed in the past, and my wife told her that she used to live in Sweden for a few years. The Americans didn't know where or what Sweden was. My wife said, "It's a country next to Norway." "Oh, Norway," the American burst out. "Ole is from there. Do you know Ole?"
Olay.
I'm pretty sure Ole is from Spain. I saw him fighting bulls. Everyone
Oh
yelled
my
his name.
gosh.
Speak English, this is America! It was online, but yeah, the sheer stupidity struck me hard. I'm Australian, and in 2015 I was doing a cruise around New Zealand with my family. Might add that I have an autistic daughter, who was 14 at the time, and despite being autistic is incredibly sociable, but has a tendency to strike up unusual conversations with strangers. We needed to get to one of the restaurants a few floors above us and decided to use the lift instead of the stairs. The lift arrived on our floor and we entered with an elderly couple already inside. My wife and I greeted them, and they duly greeted us back, and we soon ascertained they were American. Seconds later, my autistic daughter stated the obvious that we were all traveling in a lift. A random throwaway comment, but that's who she is. The female literally barked at my daughter and told her the correct word was in fact an elevator.
What?
At this point, I interjected and politely mentioned that where we are from is called a lift, but this couple was adamant that it was an elevator. Their attitude was we were wrong and they were right.
Very
Fortunately,
American.
we never did get to see them for the remainder of the cruise. We share a common language, English, and there are going to be differences in how we say things depending on where we've been brought up.
Facts.
It's about being open-minded and accepting. Unfortunately, it appeared that the world revolved around this couple. This exact thing happened to me when I said biscuit instead of cookies,
Oh my
and the
God.
guy was adamant that cookies was right and I was wrong. One American guy I met instantly told me where he lives, why he left America, why he married his foreign wife, when he shot his first gun, how his father made him do it, 7 years old if I remember
Dang.
correctly, and why he thought it was a good thing and built character, and a bunch of other stuff I can't remember. I genuinely couldn't get a word in edgeways to get away. My wife had to come pull me away, saying we needed to leave. This wasn't a supermarket in Southeast Asia. He just came over and said, "Are you American?" I said no. He launched into his life story and wouldn't stop. My wife said,
Hey man, you American? Hey, I'm American too. My name's Bob. Hey, did you know? Hey, that's how. See, this is why you got the long conversation. This is why you gotta have that short talk, them short conversations. Like you can't be the only person somewhere, and you spot somebody that's the only person as well somewhere. They gonna think you family. Y'all done grew up together. They finna tell you their life story just because y'all the odd ones out. Seem like, you know.
I said no. He launched into his life story and wouldn't stop. My wife said I'm way too polite, but how do you deal with that? Just walk away while he's still talking? I am American, but I have a pen pal from Canada I speak to often. Last night, I think I revealed to her just how much of an idiot I can be. She complained that she was too hot to sleep, and I said,
Oh, right. You guys have a heat wave going on, right?
She said,
No, that's the other coast.
My dumbass said,
Oh, yeah. I forgot Canada has 2 coasts.
She said,
No, we have 3. How the hell does Canada have 3 coasts? We have islands in the north. I thought you guys were connected to the ice cap. And what's under the ice? When I was a kid, I thought it was just solid ice from the surface to the sea floor, but BBC has taught me it's just water, death fingers, and miserable life damned there. Yes, so those melt every year, and there are rock islands, so 3 coasts. What the hell? Canadians live on rock islands in the middle of a damn ice desert that melts every year?
Needless to say, I learned a crap ton about Canada last night. They have groups of 1,200 people on rock islands who get supplies shipped to them via ice roads in winter and flown to them in spring. Sounds like a plot I'd only seen in a movie. Isn't it crazy that Canada and Tokyo have about the same population?
Very.
At customs and lax. Customs agent. Where are you from? Me.
Denmark.
CA. Sir, please don't lie about your nationality.
Oh my
Me.
god.
Excuse me? CA. Denmark isn't a real country. Now please tell me the country of your origin. Me.
Sir, you are literally holding my passport, which is from Denmark, in your hand. How can you sit there and tell me that my country doesn't exist?
Wild.
CA. Sir, Denmark is a region of Sweden and not a recognized independent nation. The Swedes would not be fond of this
At
encounter. I live in New Zealand and worked in retail, so there's been a few. Funniest was, you have to serve me. After they made a racial mark. Wasn't too bad, but still frickin' rude. Threw a tantrum in a store because they didn't look at the prices before they used one of our products, then started trashing the place. When my manager told them no, I certainly did not have to serve them by law, and she was calling the cops for the destruction of property. The lady made an O face and took off without paying. Cops got her like an hour later. I just wish I was still at work when they brought her in to pay for all the stuff she broke, stole, used. Met a cool group in Belgrade. They were very surprised they could have a drink at 21. That was so sincere, I kind of felt sorry for them in a good way. Decided to be a good host and show them the real good time. Took them to parties, river clubs, cave clubs, found them drugs, they asked. All in all, we had a pretty epic week. The kind of young people of 21 can make for themselves in a capital city. Somehow the conversation went to God. I mentioned I don't really believe in that, and they were so freaking mad. Literally instant change. The whole group started explaining Jesus stuff, angrily. They were disappointed and angry they spent a week with me.
You done did all that stuff, and then all of a sudden you trying to reach people? What the heck? That's not a good example at all.
Explaining Jesus stuff, angrily. They were
That's
disappointed
wild.
and angry they spent a week with me. I was so freaking surprised. I mean, we drank, drugged, and did a lot of crap Bible, I presume, doesn't approve. Couldn't hold a conversation that evening. Couldn't change the subject. They kept pushing, aggressively. Went to the bathroom and went home.
That's wild.
I figured Jesus enjoyed a good party. One of his miracles was getting more booze for the party. An American couple was sitting next to my sister on a flight to New Zealand. Sister.
How long are you visiting NZ for?
Americans.
3 days.
Sister.
What are you going to do while you're there?
Americans. We're going to walk around the North Island on the first day, then walk around the South Island on the second day. I'm not sure what we're going to do on the third day. New Zealand is 15,000 kilometers, 9,300 miles of coastline. I'm French Canadian. I was in the States some years ago. I tried one of those fried chocolate bars. I'm not sure if it's good. Still debating myself on that one. And the waiter recognized my accent. I was not from there. Asked me if I liked it. I said it was my first time eating that, and a couple lines down our exchange, I found that I've never eaten one before because it was somehow illegal in Canada to deep fry those. And maybe fruits too, I don't recall exactly. Like Health Canada forbade restaurants to deep fry chocolate bars. He was a nice person. It was a battlefield game, and I said through the voice channel that I was from Spain. The thing is that the Americans started calling me a taco and describing someone Mexican in the most stereotypical way possible. Let's remember that I said I was from Spain. Other than that guy, most Americans I've been able to talk to have been quite nice to me. A few colleagues from the US visited the company my husband works for. They made a few trips and passed those fields where you can cut flowers yourself and leave money in the box. All the Americans were astonished that those fields existed and did not believe it when they were told that people really do pay for those flowers instead of stealing them. One of them said that in the US, all of the flowers would have been stolen immediately. I grew up in a rural part of the US, and farmers routinely put produce, eggs, and flowers out in the roadside stands where you could help yourself and just leave money in the box. I assumed if theft was a huge problem, they would have stopped doing it.
Yeah.
I used to work for the Department of Tourism for Nova Scotia, back before smartphones and GPS. Visitors would come into our center to book accommodations, find attractions and restaurants, get directions, etc. We had a large map of the world on the wall for visitors to pin their hometown. We had a couple come to complain to us that their place wasn't on the map. We thought they meant that either 1, their hometown hadn't been pinned yet, or 2, they were from a smaller town that wasn't on the map. We explained both of these scenarios and said to pin it as close to home as possible if it wasn't marked. They got irate and kept saying they couldn't because their place wasn't on the map. We went to go see what they meant. The woman started flapping her arms and pointing and said, "I'm from America. I see Russia and here's Canada, but America isn't here." They had never seen the US on a world map and couldn't distinguish it when attached to its neighbors. They drove here.
What in the world? What are people learning in school? Especially before smartphones. Like, what are you learning?
On a world map and couldn't distinguish it when attached to its neighbors. They drove here. So an American lady who stayed in my apartment building asked to borrow my picnic basket and wanted the measurements. I gave it to her in centimeters and she asked for it in normal standards. I gave it in inches and explained that normal units are centimeters. Her response was, "No, trust me, everyone uses inches. Only the English use centimeters because they need to be different. American inches, feet, and miles is pretty much the way to go everywhere else." I then sent her a link to the invention of British imperial system and how only 3 countries use it. She blocked me. Honestly, this really happened. Any Father Ted fan will know this scene. I was on a train in England and got talking to Hank and Dolores from Texas. Lovely couple in their 60s that were touring Europe. They gushed about our quaint churches. They meant our 1,000-year-old cathedrals. They literally talked about how things are bigger in Texas, like the roads, as they had to return the hire car as they couldn't navigate our small roads. They then looked out the window and pointed to a field of cows and said, "They are so small. In Texas, our cows are much bigger." At this, a guy sitting opposite lowered his paper and said, "Those cows aren't small. They're far away."
Oh my God.
I had to bite my fist to stop from bursting out laughing. Hank and Dolores carried on talking, unaware of what just happened.
Gosh.
Well, American cows are literally fed growth hormones and stuff like that, so I can believe it.
Since you live on an island, I didn't think you guys even heard of Wi-Fi or electricity. Lol.
No, sir. We are able to talk to you only after we had danced around a severed white man's head on a spear, used his blood as ceremonial war paint, and sacrificed his body to the Pacific Ocean shark god. Sister's story. We are a British family from England. She went to Camp America to become a camp counselor for one summer in Minnesota. She was running a bonfire / sing-along type with the kids and staff. A member of the staff who she spent a few months with said, "Why don't you sing us a song in your own language?" Just to reiterate, my sister is English. I was on holiday in Edinburgh with my family when I was 10.
These people are wild when it comes to this English, man.
I was on holiday in Edinburgh with my family when I was 10. An American tourist asked my dad to take his picture with the Edinburgh Castle because it belonged to his family so that he could trace back the time of Robert the Bruce. He claimed that he was waiting for a response from Queen Elizabeth II to trial by combat, as he claimed to be the rightful heir to the throne. He further claimed his ancestor was Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. Yes, he claimed his ancestor was the Highlander. I hope you made that up. I am Brazilian and Caucasian. My mother has blue eyes and blonde hair. I have blonde hair and very fair skin. I can't describe the number of times people don't believe we are from Brazil because we look American. Karen, we are white. I was swapping parenting stories with an American, and they talked about how to work out if there were guns in someone's house that they were sending their kids to. It was such a bizarre concept. No one here would ever think to ask that question because it's pretty much given that no one has a gun in their home. I'm in and from the UK, and was at a very fancy garden party on Saturday. Lots of networking and polite conversation. This very wealthy American guy was chatting to me and my friends. Lots of nice, fun small talk. Generally lovely, until he proceeded to say, I'm gonna say something controversial, and then went on a 45-minute rant about how the NHS was awful, etc. I mean, of course, the American healthcare system will be better when you are incredibly wealthy, and the NHS is chronically underfunded.
Yeah, because if you got money, then you ain't worried about nothing, really.
Healthcare system will be better when you are incredibly wealthy, and the NHS is chronically underfunded. But wow, it really soured the mood. People kept coming up to our group to see what the commotion was, and then immediately leaving awkwardly. Lol.
Lol.
I worked in a currency exchange to Canada. I'm from Australia. It was a touristy place that had lots of Americans on holiday. Most of the shops accepted American dollars as Canadian face value, but would give change in Canadian. So if the thing was $20, and if someone gave over 50 USD, they would give 30 KAD back, convenient for the Americans and worked out well for the shops as they gained a bit on the exchange. One American tourist from Texas refused to have KAD, so every time he would pay with USD, receive KAD in change, came to me to exchange the KAD back to USD to pay again. He was losing at least 20% of every transaction. He visited my currency exchange like 10 times a day for 3 days. It was the strangest and most stereotypically American thing I experienced.
That is wild. Like, you losing more money just trying to keep changing it every time. It's like, if you there for a while, just keep that money. That makes no sense. Change it once you leave. But guys, this was I ain't gonna lie. These are some weird things some Americans have said. Some of this don't make sense at all. Especially I don't know how many times that when people native language is English and they're from a different country and these American, you speak pretty good. Hey, that one, oh my gosh. That won't be getting to me now, especially since I know what I know. Since I know what I know that I know that I know. That is crazy. That is crazy. That one irks me a little bit now. But guys, that's all I have for this video. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Send down more recommendations. And y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.